What is up, Power Ranger fans? Welcome to Off the Grid, a Power Rangers podcast. I am your host, Jacob Bartley, and this is the show where we talk all things Power Rangers, whether that be the movies or potential future movies, the comics, especially the comics, television shows, toys, collectibles, all that cool stuff going on in the world of Power Rangers. And there's a few things different about this episode today. Let's backtrack a little bit here. I didn't do an episode last week, and there was just a lot going on that day, and there was I was watching Kong versus Godzilla that night, so there's just a lot of stuff going on, and I went to go see that in a private theater, so I had to, have the Power Rangers podcast take a break off for that week, and then this upcoming week just got busy as well. So you probably are watching this on Friday morning, which is when I'm going to post this video. But yeah, we're going to be catching up on Power Rangers Dino Fury, the last episodes 5 and 6. And then I'm actually going to talk about this first, and that is the comic Power Rangers Unlimited Heir to Darkness. It is basically an Astronema origin story. And for those who don't know who Astronema is, she is the main villain in Power Rangers in Space, which is one of the best seasons of Power Rangers, might be the best season of Power Rangers. And then she's such a great villain. Her storyline, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but yes, if you don't know what happens with her, then you definitely got to check it out, and I don't want to ruin it for you. But she is one of the best villains, and I love her. She's ranked, I believe she's my number 2 villain overall after Lord Zed. And I didn't know she was going to play a part in the Power Rangers line. She popped up along with Ecliptor, like not together, but they were both in the same issue in Power Rangers number 5, I believe. And I had no idea that was happening. And it's kind of cool because normally, like with movies, right, I follow all the news and all that stuff, and I know who's going to be in it, unless it's hidden purposely as a surprise. But then for the comics, I'm not following every news story. Maybe we knew Astronema was going to be in this, but I didn't know, so I got that surprise factor. And then I also got a surprise. I didn't know they were doing an Astronema spin-off story. And yeah, we're going to talk spoilers. So if you have not read this comic, we're going to get into spoilers right away. We'll also talk spoilers on Power Rangers Dino Fury's episode 5 and 6 if you have not seen those. But let's jump into the comic, Heir to Darkness. I really liked this. It was really cool, and I believe it's a one-off because it leads right into where we see her in the Power Rangers line in the comics, Power Rangers number 5. So basically, this is going back to when Astronema was a child. And so I don't know how else to talk about it without going into reading this from the perspective of knowing her storyline in the actual in the Power Rangers history. So at this point, in Power Rangers lore, like when we compare it to the TV shows, we are at the point, and obviously it's very different. There was no Lord Drakkon in the TV shows. Lord Drakkon kind of rewrote the history, but we're basically at the point during Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Season 2. So we had not met Astronema at this point, but Astronema was out there. So we see Astronema in Power Rangers number 6, and think about this timeline-wise, that you get Power Rangers Season number 2 with Tommy as the White Ranger, and then Jason, Trini, and Zach are off doing this thing with Lord Drakkon, and this is where we're seeing Astronema at that point in her life. And she's basically hunting down Rangers, right? And I don't remember if this is a part of the show, but in this comic's history, she was told that her family was slaughtered by Power Rangers. And I'm guessing that Zordon is responsible somehow as well. And that's obviously a lie. And, maybe reading these comics for the first time, you wouldn't know that it's a lie. But from knowing the shows and all the history of the shows, that's definitely a lie. And so she's kind of going... That's why she hates Power Rangers and she wants to kill them, is because she thinks that they slaughtered her families. And we know most Power Rangers are good guys, so that doesn't really sound right anyway. So we get, throughout this issue, or out this one-off, we get Astronema as a young girl, like a little bit older, and then in her current age, which the age she pops up in the Power Rangers comics. So we get her as a young girl, and they call her K because she has a like a number is what she's referred to, but the first number in her name is K, or the first letter in her like number digit thing or whatever is K, and then but we all know her real name is Corone, and so that kind of lines up with that. But they're calling her K throughout this comic, and we see her around modern day. She's hunting down Rangers. She's beating up a few. They get away, and she's very upset with herself that they got away. And then we see that she thinks Ecliptor in Power Rangers in Space is the one who kind of raised her and was a father figure to her. So we see that in this. She goes back to the planet Mutane at the capital. I think it's Crucius is what it's called. And we see her meet up back with Ecliptor. And actually, prior to this, we see that she was training with Ecliptor all her life. She's watching tape on her fighting the Rangers earlier in this issue, and she's like studying it, which is really cool because in the show, Astronema is very formidable. She fights the Rangers a lot by herself, and she's known to be this dangerous being in the show, very powerful. So the fact that they're showing her very, very powerful and trained and great at fighting is important because now it gives a backbone to how powerful she is in Power Rangers in Space and how powerful we see her as an adult. So that's pretty cool. And she's not Astronema yet. That's important. But yeah, then she goes to Mutane to meet up with Ecliptor. And so basically she grew up with the Empire that Dark Spectre rules. And they take these young people and they kind of train them to be soldiers, and they kind of have them fight to the death type fights, and the strongest one gets to be basically the heir to Dark Spectre in the end. And throughout the years, we see that Astronema, they were thrown together as kids, and they were told that, hey, this is your new family, but then they would go on missions together, but then they would have to fight each other in order to impress Dark Spectre, and if they failed, they either got killed, put on the front lines of war, or whatever. So we see that Astronema has tied basically with this girl D several times in a row. Basically, neither of them were willing to kill each other or could kill each other, or at least severely beat the other person until they can't fight anymore. So that's pretty cool. And then the best moment in the entire comic here is when she's a little girl and she's crying, and Ecliptor's trying to talk to her, and she says, "Stop telling me I'm doing this for my family. I didn't know them. I don't even remember them. Like, you guys just keep telling me that this is my family. Like, why would I do this for them?" And it's a good point. And then Ecliptor brings her this locket that has her and her brother in it, and some evidence that her family was real. So now she has that closure in her mind. She has that closure that, okay, my family was real, but so I still hate Rangers, but I'm here to focus and work for the Empire and win this fight, or win these fights or whatever, and be a formidable fighter going forward, because she's very young in this scene. And I thought that was a great scene, seeing her emotion, because I love the character and I know her entire history, so I thought that was a really cool moment in the comics for the Astronema character. And basically it's all leading up, it's giving us all this background leading up to this fight with her and this girl that she kind of grew up with named D, and they're fighting, and finally Astronema gets the upper hand on her, and basically the girl's bleeding, and she's like, "Please don't kill me," and she hits her again, and basically we don't know if she's dead or not, but Astronema wins, and then she has to go into this kind of like magical place where she's challenged by, fake images of or conjures of Spectre or of Ecliptor and her brother, and she has to like push it all away and like disregard all her emotion. And then she comes out and they're like, what did they name you? And now they're calling her princess because now she's the princess of darkness, dark specters. She's not really his daughter, but she's basically the heir to the throne now for dark specter. She's the princess of darkness. And she says Astronema. And then Ecliptor has a new mission for her from dark specter, and it is to go to Onyx, which is the planet where she meets up with the Power Rangers in Power Rangers number 5. So, really cool. I love this because, first of all, I didn't know it was coming, so awesome. My second favorite villain in Power Rangers gets an origin comic, awesome. But it's like, it's so cool. If you're reading the Power Rangers line, you get some context on this character. Let's say, like me, right? I haven't watched anything past Dino Charge. I haven't watched any of the shows except Beast Morphers and Dino Fury past Dino Charge. So, if a villain popped up in the comics from SPD, I wouldn't know who they are. So let's say you're a casual fan, you've seen Mighty Morphin, maybe you've seen Zeo or something, but you've never watched In Space, right? And then you see Astronema pop up in the comics, then you're like, oh, I know about her, but I don't really know a lot about her. Then reading this is really cool. And then whether you get to see it on the television show or later on in the comics, if they retell it, you get to see her story play out, which is really, really cool. So I loved this. I had to buy it digitally because my local comic didn't have it, and I really prefer to read the hard copy. But I highly recommend this if you're a Power Rangers fan, if you know the Astronema character, if you're a Power Rangers in Space fan. I absolutely loved it. It was really, really good, and it satisfied me as a huge Astronema fan. But yeah, let me know in the comment section. What did you guys think of this? I'm really curious to know. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. What you thought of Power Rangers Unlimited Heir to Darkness. I would love to hear your thoughts. All right, so let's move on, and I'll make this quick. Not much to talk about here, but to Power Rangers Dino Fury Episode 5, Winning Attitude. This is the one where, and it's also 2 weeks removed from my memory, but it's the one where Izzy has a big race coming up, and her cousin is training her, and she goes through these trials, and in the end, she loses the race that her dad really wanted her to win because one of the girls falls and hurts her ankle, and then Izzy helps her up, and then because of that, she falls and falls behind and ends up in last place, and then but decides to finish the race anyway after a big battle with some monsters. Decent episode, pretty cool. I liked it. And then we have Power Rangers Dino Fury Episode 6, Superstition Strikes. That is more on the brain because I just watched it today, and it was pretty cool. Didn't like I don't mind Power Rangers Dino Fury. Like, ever since the first episode, I'm like, okay, this is just decent enough and not terrible enough for me to stop watching it, and just decent enough for me to keep watching it. So I kind of feel the same. Nothing has changed, but nothing has like been improving and to keep me super, super interested. But like I said before, I'm kind of over the silly kitty version of Power Rangers. I want something a little bit more, at least young adult. I want something more The Flash, something more Black Lightning, so around that budget, around that level of television making. So I'm not super invested in this show, and I think this is the last one that they're making the original way they used to make it, with taking the Japanese footage and all that. So we should be getting some high quality stuff from Hasbro and E1 coming up. But anyways, I like this episode, Superstition Strikes, because Amelia has been my favorite character since Dino Fury started. I just think she's funny. She's like ditzy kinda, and she's been the one of her and Izzy, and ironically because they're the girls, like that the only two girls of the Power Rangers, they have the most personality so far, and I really have been digging their storylines. But basically, we meet Amelia's grandpa. She walks under a ladder, and it's a theme of bad luck, and she thinks she has bad luck the whole time, and she loses her morpher, and it's damaged. By the way, her morpher gets damaged and stolen, and they're like, "Oh, no worries, Solon's just gonna make you a new one." Like, what? They can just make new ones? I thought if you lose your morpher, if damaged, like it's done. But no, you can just make new morphers. So that was interesting. But anyways, the only way to get into the Power Rangers base is to use a morpher. So since Mucus took her morpher, they're able to get in there. But then Amelia realizes, oh, if I was unlucky, then I wouldn't have been here to protect the base when they teleported here. So she kind of gets over that, and then they go fight the big monster, and she's like ready to fight, and she knocks something over, and then it starts to fall, but it ends up hitting the monster. So it was like looked at as good luck as well, and they defeat the monster, and the Izzy gets the Sporix. So most of the Sporix have been collected by the Rangers, which is good for them. And then we get the funny scene. See, I didn't mind that. It was kind of Bulk and Skull-esque, but where Ollie, because it was story driven, because Ollie was making fun of her the whole time for being superstitious, and then Ollie cracks a mirror, and now he's the one with bad luck. So it kind of played into the story. It wasn't just some random stuff. But yeah, overall, like I said, I'm not hating Power Rangers Dino Fury, but I'm also not loving it. So I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Is anybody watching out there? Are you, around I'm in my late 20s. So like, are you enjoying this as somebody who like grew up watching Mighty Morphin? I'm curious what people think about this show, especially like, I'm curious, are you a younger fan who likes this show? Let me know in the comment section why. And if you're an older fan like me that likes the show, let me know in the comment section why. I want to get a good gauge of how Power Rangers fans are feeling about Power Rangers Dino Fury. But that's going to do it for this episode of Off the Grid of Power Rangers podcast. We did the Astronema comic. Loved that. We did Beast Morphers Power Rangers 5 and 6 episodes. Those were okay. I want to hear your thoughts on all of those. And look out. So April 14th, which is next week, Mighty Morphin number 6 come out, so we'll be talking Mighty Morphin number 6, and then on April 21st, Power Rangers number 6 comes out. We'll be talking that, which will be the lead up from or the follow up to the Astronema comic. So you'll hear me talk about those then. Also, don't forget to go to TeePublic. I have the link in the bio. You can buy some Off the Grid merchandise there, designed by Jake Berlin, who also does the graphics for this show. Again, thank you all for watching. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you like all things Power Rangers. My name is Jacob Bartley. You can find me on Twitter at JacobBartley824. Until next time, I should say, may the power protect you.